Welcome back, y'all. Today it's just gonna be me. Since I'm walking by here, I'm gonna show you my little chicks real quick. We've lost just a couple. Happened right after they got here pretty much, but other than that, everybody seems to be doing pretty good. And like I said, just gonna be me today. Megan and the kids and her mama are going on a little bitty mini vacation, and just the way it worked out this time, I had to work, and I just couldn't make it work to where I could go. But anyways, that's good for them to have some time alone, and it's given me some time here today especially to take care of things at the house. I'll show you one more thing. It's important to have a good floor in your trailer. Went to do a bush hogging job yesterday. Pulled the tractor up on the trailer and went through the floor of the trailer. I mean, still got the tractor to where I needed to go, but yeah, I guess that's going to be a project this winter, putting a floor in that thing. So what I'm going to work on today is, even though it's middle of July, well, it's actually getting close to the end of July, but even though it's the end of July, fall gardening probably ain't on anybody's mind right now, but it is mine. And it's not going to be long. It's going to be time to start planting stuff. We'll actually probably be starting our collards and whatever we decide to plant this fall. We'll be starting those soon, probably coming up in the next couple weeks. And so, since I got time today, I want to go ahead and get my beds ready for the fall garden. Now, we don't plant a ton of fall garden. I'm planning on planting up here in the garden where our corn was. I'm going to plant a fall crop of peas, of green peas, and then down here we're going to have collards, and we might put in some cabbage and broccoli. We don't typically do a lot of that in the fall, but we do like to grow collards in the fall. Collards is one of Megan's favorite things. And then we'll plant some mustard greens and all that stuff. We always call that our salad patch. We'll have a little one this year. In the last couple of years, I've kind of went overkill with it and planted too much. I'm just going to plant a little bitty patch this year and let it roll at that. But anyways, what I want to do to get these raised beds ready, this is the one that had the onions in it. I've had that tarp laying over it to kill out that clover, and it has worked. The clover's gone, so we're going to get that tarp and stuff off of there. Oh man, that pallet's rotten. Oh wow. That did a really good job of killing everything. As you see this nice mat, that's all the clover that was over top of this that's died now. It's made a really nice layer of mulch there. Look, there's a onion we apparently missed. What I'm going to do next is cut back some of this comfrey and do just like I done on the other raised beds. The ones y'all watched, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, I kind of put them to bed. Going to do the same thing on this one, except I'm not going to put near as much comfrey in it because it won't be long we'll be planting, and I just don't want all that there kind of in my way. I'm just going to scatter this. Just going to scatter this out because I'm going to cover this back up, and this comfrey will be something good to break down and help feed the soil. This is my drip line, main line right here. I'm going to pull it up out of my way. Now I'm just going to top everything off with some of this raised bed potting mix here. See, when it comes time to plant, I won't actually be planting into this raised bed mix. This will be more or less like a mulch cover. I'll be planting into the soil that's the existing soil that's already here. This is just to top everything off because we have had quite a bit of settling on this bed and that bed over there. Fall gardening though is something that's, if you don't pay attention to what time of year it is, it'll slip away from you real quick because you know it's hot right now. Most people ain't exactly thinking about fall right now. But fall will be here before we know it. So I want to be prepared and be ready for it. I tell y'all something, a bag of dirt don't go far. One more. This is the same soil we used up here for our corn, for the bed the corn's in. But I will say I'm typically not a fan of bag stuff at all because if you think about this, anything that's been sitting around in a bag, like it can't get air, it's hot, and sometimes it's even just bone dry, that soil when you buy it is lifeless. There is nothing in this soil most likely. No microbial activity, no nothing. And so you kind of have to bring that stuff back to life sometimes. And by adding it to just as like a top dressing to our bed here, and not actually legit planting into it, but just using it as a top dressing, you know, the worms and everything else that's in the underneath layer, well, they'll come up and they'll start feeding on that comfrey that I put down. And all of this will eventually be worked back in, and I would about say in a year's time, this will look nothing like this, except you'll be able to still see that perlite. But the rest of this will be broke down to the point, and it'll be some really good growing garden soil. And we'll continue to have to add layers to this because soil settles. Earthworms eat the soil. Just all kinds of things happen that make that start sinking down. So with a raised bed, it's almost like a never-ending thing. You always got to add and add and add. I'm going to pull this tomato plant out and do the same thing to this bed. There's actually a cage in here, but you'd never know it. This plant swallowed it up. Goodness gracious, what a plant. So this bed right here already had a bunch of stuff added to it. All of that is just the weeds and stuff we pulled out of these beds when we pulled the onion and garlics. There's already some comfrey leaves that's been added to that. I'm gonna go down here to another spot and cut some more comfrey leaves to bring up here. Then I'll cover it up just like I did the other bed with the bag soil. I've got a pretty good bundle of comfrey here. And the cool thing about this comfrey is it breaks down really quick, especially where this is going to be covered up with that soil. It'll be able to stay damp. Those earthworms that's in these beds will come up, feed on this, break it down, and I just about guarantee by the time we go to plant these beds, even though it's only going to be a few weeks, there's not going to be much resembling comfrey underneath that soil when we go to digging. I've also learned from from the past year's experience of growing a fall garden is some places that work great for summer gardens, they don't work good at all for fall gardening. So what I mean by that is we all know the sun tracks differently across the sky in the fall versus how it does right now in the middle of summer. You can have your microclimates come in big time play with a fall garden, especially in our area. Because you can have some really cold spots in the fall and throughout the winter that are great spots for a garden in the summer. Just like our big garden out here. That is a really cold spot in the late fall, early winter, because of the way the sun tracks across the sky. That out there doesn't get very much sun exposure at all till late in the day in the wintertime. So in turn, our big garden does not make very good fall crops, because if we have a really cold spell, over there will stay so cold that things don't thaw out and thaw out or warm up, and the crops just don't do good, and because it's limited sun exposure too. Our best fall crops come from these beds here, because the sun tracks just like this, and these are in the sun most of the day, which means it warms up quick, they get plenty of sunlight, and it just works good out here. So that's something to think about. You know, you people who are in the way far south, y'all don't probably have to worry much about your fall garden. I've heard that y'all guys' fall gardens actually work way better than trying to garden in the summertime. But for us up here, we have to pick the right spot to put a fall garden, because it can be a complete failure if it's in the wrong spot. Well, these two raised beds will be ready to plant by the time it's time to plant. One of them will probably be all collards, and one of them will probably be some broccoli and some cabbage heads. We always try to grow a few cabbage in the fall as well. However, it's definitely not something we depend on, because you just can't count on it. It always ends up turning cold so quick, those cabbage heads will freeze, they'll bust. Sometimes we get good fall cabbage, majority of the time we don't. So we don't count on it. If it makes something, it's more or less what we consider an extra. Considering the fact that y'all now know we got a little bit of a land clearing project to do, somebody guess and tell me what those go in. Look at my corn, which we'll come back to this corn here in just a little bit. I do want to set up the drip line on it. Next thing I'm going to do involves these tomatoes. They look absolutely horrible. I mean, these right here are pretty much gone. We got a little bit of green tops right there. So I don't want many, but what I'm going to try to do is find me a few suckers that I can root. I don't want many at all. But if I can root me a couple, then that'll give us, oh, that ain't got no, yeah it does. No, it don't either. That's not gonna make a good one. But what I'm looking for is a few suckers so I can root me a couple of fall tomato plants. And when you root them, they've already got a head start, so instead of starting them from seed. Right here will work. Let's just cut the top out of this. Like I said, I only want just a few. Make sure we cut any blooms on them that might be on them off. That'll make one. Let's see. Find one that's got a good looking bud in it so it'll continue to grow upward. Right here we go. That'll make 2. Let's go over here and get some off of these others. Now, this is something we typically do every year. Some years we don't get anything off of them because it turns cold too fast. Some years we actually do better with the fall tomatoes than we did summer tomatoes. It's a gamble either way. Fall gardening period is a gamble for us. Sort of hard to find some nice looking suckers this time of year though. Because the tomato plants have all matured out. Alright, so I got 4 decent looking suckers there. We'll take these down here and put them in a pot right next to the greenhouse where they're right beside a water hose. I'll place them in a spot where they got a little bit of shade so they don't just cook out here in this heat. And hopefully these will be a fall tomato crop because it's, you know, if we started some from seed, they don't have time to make anything. And if we went to a store and tried to buy tomato plants, well, that's about impossible to find now too. Fall gardening for us in our area is pretty much left up to the person that wants to start their own seeds and own plants because you just can't really find anywhere that sells fall garden starts. All right. We'll use some of this right here. Seed starting mix seems to work the best, in my opinion, for this application. However, just about anything will work. Tomatoes are so easy to root that you could almost stick them straight into the garden as long as you kept them wet and they would grow. Now, y'all remember Jacob rooted one? It has struggled big time. I'm going to use it as part of my fall garden crop as well. Now, I'm going to set these there right up against that building where they've got shade. And it's right here beside the water hose where I can constantly monitor them and water them. And once they start perking up, well, we know they've took root and they'll be ready to plant. And let me tell you, if you're going to do this, they're going to look absolutely terrible for the first couple of days. You're going to think you probably killed them. As long as they don't turn brown, they'll live. Trust me. I have rooted so many tomatoes. I mean, one year we took and started off our garden with like 1 or 2 tomato plants. And just off the suckers alone, I ended up with a whole row of tomatoes. Just kept rooting them and having them like in cycles. Well, sit here and drink me a glass of water real quick. It's got hot out here. And since Megan and the kids ain't here for me to sit here and talk to, I guess I can sit here with y'all. And we don't typically make it a habit to go places separate from each other. Just how it happened to work out this time. I think they've had a great time. But that's just how life goes sometimes. And you know, somebody's got to stay here and take care of all this. And just because they're gone, don't mean I can just sit here and twiddle my thumbs until they get back. There's a lot of things around here that's got to be done. It's funny, when you sit down for a minute, you look around and you think of 10,000 other things you need to be doing too. That just seems to be the way it goes. I try not to let a lot of those things consume me, because I mean, as y'all can probably imagine, you see from the videos, and y'all only see just a small portion of what we decide to share that we actually do around here. And it can get overwhelming sometimes. It really can. And the best way I think to overcome that is to not think of the grand picture of all the things that's got to be done. Keep your mind on one thing, get it done, and move to the next. Knock those things out one little project at a time, and you'll find out that you eventually take care of what needs to be done. You'll learn what can be put on the back burner and what needs to be done right now. Just like those beds, I feel like I should have done that like a couple weeks ago, because we're getting so close to planting time. I just feel like that should have already been taken care of, but it's done now. Those tomatoes actually should have been rooted 2 weeks ago and already put in the ground, but they're done now. But now I guess next, we'll go down here and get this irrigation set up. Then I need to go up to the popcorn. And, oh, I know what other big thing I need to do. I think it's finally going to dry up enough we can get our potatoes up. So we'll go get the bush hog hooked up and go up there and bush hog the potato vines. And that way when everybody gets back, we can jump on that and get it taken care of. I'm excited to see what those potatoes turn off. I have a feeling we're going to have a lot. Sometimes when you've got a lot of stuff to do, it helps just to sit down and drink a glass of water and figure out which direction you're going next. And I feel like today has just plumb flew by. Like, I don't know where it went. I got up this morning, done all the chores and fed everything. Grandma come down here. We picked her a bucket full of green beans, sat here on the porch and snapped them. And after that, I had some other things I had to go take care of. I went inside and ate lunch. Answered some comments while I was eating lunch. And next thing I know, it's 1:30. And I'm like, golly, I got all this stuff to do, and it's already 1:30. What in the world happened? So here I am, waited to get my most labor-intensive stuff done in the heat of the day. Probably not the smartest thing to do, but it's just the way it worked out today. But I feel like today has flew by. I mean, it has flew. Alright, so I've already got the main line set up on these raised beds. I just never did put the drip line in for the corn because, well, we ain't needed it. But like I said, we are about to reach a point where I think we are going to need it. All of our irrigation setup came from Hoss Tools down in Norman Park, Georgia. I think this stuff can be found on Amazon as well. But if you're interested in using what we've used here, like always, there's a link in the description for Hoss's website, and it'll take you straight to their website, and you can search up their raised bed irrigation kits, or you can buy it all individually, but it's all there. But what you have with these drip lines, right there, there's just a small amount of water that runs through this under very low pressure, and water just drips out that hole, which that hole you call an emitter. And it's so simple how this works. For whatever reason, I was a little bit intimidated by this at the start. But you have this little dude right here. You can poke a hole in your main line. Then we'll have to grab a connector. So now we have this little connector that's going to connect to the main line. And then the end of my drip line, the end of my drip line is going to slide right onto this connector. Now, this would have actually been a little bit easier had I done it when the corn was younger. However, we're just gonna snake it through and run that line right down the side of the plant, and we'll snake it all the way through to up yonder. I'm gonna tell y'all something though. I have overhead watered by hand my raised beds ever since I've ever had raised beds. And doing this drip line setup has got to be the best thing we ever done for our raised beds. Now, needless to say, we have not really much needed it this year. You can literally turn on the water and forget about it. You don't have to worry about flooding out your raised bed. All it does is give it a real good soaking. Now you get some of these staples here along with the kits to help hold your line in place wherever you want it to be at, because this line can be a little bit stiff until the sun hits it. So it may not stay exactly where you want it without something to hold it. It gives you a really slow soaking watering is the main thing. It's much more beneficial for the plants and uses much less water. Yeah, I definitely probably should have done this when they were smaller. It's another one of those things that probably should have been done a long time ago. But I didn't do it. Now, I'm not sure if this is how you're supposed to do it or not, but I like to take the end from that drip line and just tie it right back into my main line. I don't really think there's a right or wrong answer on how to do this. You just make it work for you. Okay, you see I have it tied into the main line. It snakes and runs right down each row of corn. I will say, if this was an in-ground garden, for our area, unless we have an extreme drought, irrigation ain't exactly required. We do have to irrigate on occasion on in-ground gardens because we just hit a really long dry spell, but typically it's not required, so it's not really something I've ever put a whole lot of effort into doing. I'll just set up some sprinklers in the in-ground gardens if they get to the point they need to be watered. But these raised beds cannot go without being watered. That's just plain and simple fact of it. They have to be watered. I don't care if you get rain. If we had rain 2 days ago, I can come out here, especially in this heat like we got now. We could have got ½ inch of rain 2 days ago, come out here and stuff will be flopped because they've done dried up. That's just the nature of a raised bed. So I think that some kind of irrigation setup like this is an absolute must now on raised beds. Now that I've had it, I say it's a must. Before I had it, I was like, I'll just water in my hand. But now that I've had it, I say it's a really, really, really nice feature. It saves so much time. I don't have to stand out here for an hour now watering everything. You know, this gives it a good soaking. It just works really good. All right, last bed is set up. You can see the line. Let's go over here and cut the water on, make sure everything's gonna work. And luckily we have a water spigot right here at the raised beds. The way these systems work, they hook up to a water hose. You have a filter, and then your main line hooks onto the end of that filter, and it pushes water. It pushes water up through everything here. Yep, it's already dripping. Y'all might can hear all the air pushing out of it. But once it gets all the air pushed out, you don't even hear this thing running. It's working. So I'm actually just gonna leave that running and let it be watering my corn. So while I was doing that, I thought of one more thing I gotta do. I gotta get these cows moved and move their water trough. And I'm gonna put in a roll of hay, which is something most people typically don't do in the middle of the summer because grass is growing and all that. I think I'm going to take this bale of hay because I didn't realize it, and a while back the tarp had blowed off and this one had started getting wet. It's still probably good, but I'm going to save that one to use as some mulch in the garden. I tell you one thing that I really like about these little bales versus my daddy's 4x5s is this little Kubota here handles them so much better. It's like they're not even up there. But something I never thought much about, I never realized just how bad a string wrap bale will soak up water if it's left uncovered. Because with daddy's baler, his is a net wrap, makes a whole lot tighter bale than my string wrap baler does. So in turn, those net wraps will shed water. These right here just absorb it like a sponge, and they cannot sit out and get wet, or else your hay will mold. Are y'all hungry? We found that it's working best for us to just completely stop rotating them. Lock them in this really poor section of grass. I'm unrolling bales of hay on it. Oh me, I don't believe I'm gonna be able to manage that one around. But I'm unrolling bales of hay on it. Golly, you can tell that's got wet. Helping to improve its quality, because by doing this we get all this hay distributed on the ground, and I've got that turned the wrong way. So you can see right there where these bales got wet, that whole outside layer, yep, I've got it turned the wrong way. The whole outside layer has gotten wet and started to mold already. There we go. Now, so now they'll come over here and graze on this. These little bales are just perfect that they run out before they hit the fence. They've got plenty of woods right there to stand in. Most of our pasture does not have ample wooded area. So I don't have a shade structure to move around in the pasture. So it just works good to let them stay here. It's working great for us, honestly. It's hot, I'm sorry y'all. I forgot. Well, go on over there. Quit acting like you don't know what you're doing. There they go. Now they're just happy to be moved. They don't even care nothing about the hay over there. Except for Belle. She's the hay queen. She would take hay over fresh green grass any day for whatever reason. She's the only cow I ever seen do that. All right, I got to set this fence up just a little bit different. Most people in the cattle industry, maybe I should put it this way. Lots of people on YouTube frown upon leaving cows in an area for over a specific time. But I can tell you right now, on these hot days, it's fixing to dry, our grass is going to stop growing. I don't care if we've had as much rain as we've had, our grass will stop growing. And rotating them is not going to benefit us at all, because what they're going to do is go down and eat all the grass down, and it's not going to grow back. I've done it many times in the past. And part of that's because we got too many cows on too little land. And the other part is, this is just some poor ground we're working with, and it don't recover very fast. I have a feeling we're probably not going to see results this year, but next spring and on into next summer, we're probably going to see some really good benefits come from unrolling this hay onto this land right here. And lots of people are probably concerned, saying, well, ain't that going to kill the grass that's already there? And yeah, you do lose some. You can see there's a lot that starts pushing through it too, but you do lose some. However, next spring, I absolutely guarantee you that you will never know where those hay bales were unrolled. That'll already be rotted out, gone, and thick, pretty grass will be come up in its place. So this is just how we're doing it. This is how we're managing too many cows on too few of acres. We are making it work. We have to do things a little bit out of the ordinary, but we are making it work. Now, fortunately, we do have a neighbor over the hill here who's going to let us, we've been working on their fence, and they're going to let us bring a couple of these calves over there and leave them on their grass for the rest of the summer. We just ain't had time to completely finish that little project yet. There's something about cows eating an unrolled bale of hay that I just really like to watch. So since this water trough is going to sit here, I don't know what I'm thinking. Since it's going to sit here for a while and it's not going to be moved, I'm going to put one of these water valves on it to help with watering, just simply because these cows are going to drink a ton of water, as hot as it's going to be, and this will help keep this water trough full. I've already had the water hose running. So there's how that works. Once it gets full, it'll shut that little float valve off. And it does look like I have a leak, which I'll worry about later. I don't know. I may just need to put a different washer in there. Boy, that water feels good. Oh man. But that'll stay constantly hooked up to the water hose. And it'll keep them some good, clean, fresh water in here at all the times. And we won't have to be constantly worrying about checking this thing, making sure they got water. Because, trust me, 9 cows can drink a ton of water in a day, especially when it's hot. I'm finally making it to the potato bag. It's actually a few hours later than than last time you saw me. I had a bunch of other stuff I had to get taken care of. But what I'm going to do is bush hog down each row of potatoes. I know it's hard to see now, but there's a row of potatoes here. You see a row of buckwheat, that's between the row of potatoes. Right there's a row. I can tell, y'all probably can't tell on camera, but there's also mounded up where there's a row of potatoes. I'm just gonna go down through here and bush hog all this down, so that way when we actually get a chance to get up here and get them up, it'll be ready to roll. I like to use this old bush hog because by no doubt you're going to hit rocks when you're bush hogging these potatoes down, especially in our fields. And I kind of like to cut them as close to the top of the row as I can, kind of scratch the top of the ground. I try to keep this thing set at just the perfect height that I'm just barely scuffing the top of that ridge. Because I don't want to hit my potatoes, and I don't want to dig my bush hog down in the dirt, but I also want to cut that vine off completely out of the way. Oh, there it is. That little 4-foot bush hog just ain't quite wide enough to get everything in between the rows. But it'll be okay. I did mess up and drag a few out of the ground. I'll take him home with me. Now, we just got to get up here and get them out of the ground. And I think the ground's still pretty wet. You can see where I scuffed it up right there. Like, that's mud down in there. That's wet. But now that they're bush hogged, that's going to open everything up to where all of this can get sunshine. And I mean, in another day or two, this will be dry. It'll be plenty dry enough to get up potatoes. And, you know, if I have to, I'll get up potatoes when they're wet. But I really like to get them up when the soil's a little on the drier side, because all that soil just crumbles off of them. So when you go to store them, as many of you probably know, you don't want to wash your potatoes before you store them, because it'll make them not store as well. If you leave that dirt on them, they store a whole lot better. Well, if you get up muddy potatoes, well, then you've got a lot of mud stuck to your potatoes. If you get up dry potatoes, I mean, I think it's kind of common sense. You've got cleaner potatoes when you go to get them up. So if it dries up, hopefully it will dry up quite a bit more than it already is. And sometime this coming up week, those will be out of the ground. I hope y'all enjoyed hanging out with me this evening. Like I always say, I hope you learned a little something. Next video, it'll be everybody again. So you won't have to worry about dealing with just me. Oh, I'm just picking, I know. But anyways, believe it or not, some people do say they like seeing everybody and not just one of us. And, you know, I don't blame you. That's completely fine, because I understand that's why a lot of people love watching our channel, is because we do things as a family. But, you know, as we always say, it's real life. And the fact of the matter is, sometimes in real life, you have to do things by yourself. And this is just one of those times. So, I hope y'all enjoyed this evening's video. Hope you might have learned a little something. And we'll see y'all on the next one. Y'all have a good one.